Two second-year quarterbacks dueling on Sunday Night Football, so how is each team going to attack the other one? Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day every single day. My hashtag everydayers, sound off if you can. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Today on the show, I've got a ton to get to. I want to get to that central question. How are each of these teams going to attack their young quarterbacks under center opposite them? Also, the Zoever under, where we're going to look at FanDuel's betting lines, try to get a vibe for the public's perception of this game. How's this thing supposed to go if we take the betting line as the sort of endorsement of the public? There's always some interesting insights there. And your bold predictions. I have a lot more than usual, and I'm trying to be a little more generous about them. Plus, we had one hit last week, so you got to hear about that. But first, let's talk about these quarterbacks. So attacking Michael Penix, he's been, by all accounts, a solid quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons in the 5 games that he's played. And part of that has been getting rid of the ball quickly. So it's a pretty standard way to play. And the standard way to play against Brian Flores truncates the offense. This is what we want. We want the offense to become dink and dunk. We want completions for 2 yards leading to 2nd and 8. And then suddenly you're going to feel like you need to push it a little more. And that's when the blitzes can get there. There are a lot of problems on that Atlanta offense, but they don't really have to do with Michael Penix. They've got problems with health. Darnell Mooney and Drake London are both limited participants. Maybe they'll get more out of Kyle Pitts this year, but I think that's something that very few Falcons fans are satisfied with so far. At least on the whole. And they've got injuries up front. They lost Caleb McGarry. They've had some other issues in the pass protection. So keeping Michael Penix upright has been a big issue. But essentially, a big portion of the Falcons' offense was Tampa's going to blitz. And of course, Tampa's going to blitz, right? Todd Bowles. Tampa's going to blitz. They're going to send guys, be aggressive. It gives us a pretty good look at what it's going to look like with Flores. In fact, the last couple years, anytime I'm scouting a team, if they could have a game against the Bucs, I'm like, oh, sweet. Let's watch. We got to watch the game against the Bucs because you know they're going to get rushed a bunch, and you got to see how they respond to that. And Penix's response to that is probably the one you want the most if you're a Falcons fan, which is he gets the ball out of his dang hand. He is not going to turn and run and do the Caleb Williams thing, right? He is going to dump that thing off. The problem is the guy he's dumping it off to is pretty crazy. Is Bijan Robinson. He had an unbelievable week 1 game. Makes guys miss. He's the guy that you have to be worried about, right? I don't know. I wonder. I'm revisiting a couple of draft takes here, right? Michael Penix was not my favorite quarterback, and Bijan Robinson was not my favorite running back, and both of them are playing pretty well. But taking that for what it is, you have to tackle Bijan Robinson. That's kind of it. And this is like maybe my chief concern with the Vikings defense against the Falcons offense is I don't really see any evidence that Bijan Robinson can't juke one corner in the open field and turn a check down into a 35-yard gain. It just feels like a thing that can happen to the Minnesota Vikings pretty easily. But there are ways to prevent that from being too tough of a thing, right? What you don't want to have happen is a linebacker to have to chase Bijan Robinson all the way out to the edge. Let's say Bijan Robinson takes a check down, he's in the flat, right? And he's running up the sideline. You don't want someone coming at that side angle. It's just a lot easier for Bijan to juke that. You want somebody out there already that can funnel the thing inside, that can make it, that can set up for a vice tackle with somebody, right? Like make it easier on people to tackle. So we're not just hoping that Isaiah Rodgers or Byron Murphy, who missed a tackle against Caleb Williams, I think, who, like, you don't want these guys to just be like mano-y-mano, let's do an Oklahoma drill against Bijan Robinson. This is not what we want. So what I'm advocating for here are the Vikings quarters setups, right? In a vanilla quarter setup, you rush 4, you get 2 guys in the flat. Okay, great. If we're going to check down to Bijan Robinson, you got 2 guys in the flat, 1 over the ball. Where's Bijan Robinson going to be? Is he going to find the hole in those zones and we're checking down to there? Okay, hats are rallying. It's not going to be that bad. And with everybody else, you've got somebody already out there covering that check down and hopefully dissuading Penix from throwing it at all. If you're blitzing, you can still do the palms-ish hot quarters look that Brian Flores loves so much, where the corners do have a flat responsibility, and they will trigger downhill on the flat if they see the ball go there, but they are also kind of prioritizing their deep corner, their man outside and deep, like corners play in quarters a lot. I think I like the former better. I like rush 4. The Vikings kind of proved they can get pressure with 4. You can beat up this center. You can beat up this backup right tackle. Let's see if guys can win. And if they aren't winning, we can use stunts, which also were very effective. Just 4-man stunts, little twists. Force this line to communicate and force them to make and give them the opportunity to make a bunch of mistakes. You can generate pressure that way. And then with everybody in coverage the way that you want them to be, hopefully you can take that check down away. So now Penix can't do his easy dump off. You take the instinct away, you take the reflex away, you get him thinking. And anytime a quarterback gets to thinking, bad things are going to start happening. That's where I feel like we can make a lot of progress. On the flip side, how are you going to attack JJ McCarthy? I would say, again, you hope for the health, right? If you're Atlanta and you just send you just try to attack Justin School. I don't know what the dare saw thing is. And this is maybe a good chance to talk about the injury report as a whole. Jamal Agnew, Jordan Fuller, the safety, Jack Nelson, and Casey Washington, all DNPs for the Falcons. For the Vikings, JJ McCarthy was a DNP on Thursday. It was no big deal. Well, pretty big deal. He was having a kid, not an injury. So congratulations to him. But outside of that, you've got a bunch of nicks and bruises, limited participation for Isaiah Rodgers crops up as a limited participant with an elbow injury. That's a thing to watch. Late in the injury report, guys coming out of nowhere with an injury might mean a practice injury happened. Something to look for. Xavier Scott, limited participant. Darisaw and Harrison Smith limited, Miles Price limited, but really you've got Jeff Okudah in the concussion protocol and Andrew Van Ginkel in the concussion protocol. Would be very surprised if either of those guys played the concussion protocol on a short week. Really, really tough to get that to happen. I don't even know if that timeline is legal. I don't think it is, though. Josh Oliver also has an ankle injury. He's DNP, and Ryan Kelly has a toe injury. He has been a DNP all week. So all of that is stuff to look at. So if you don't get Darisaw again, you got Justin School out there. You could have Michael Juergens out there. If I'm the Falcons, I am champing at the bit. I got these young hotshot edge rushers, and suddenly a guy that just got absolutely lambasted is trotting back out there again, plus a second-year center that has proven nothing. I'm feeling real good about that if I'm the Falcons. You get some pressure on JJ McCarthy and hope that mistakes come. Show him those blitz looks. Like if I'm an opposing defensive coordinator and I'm watching the tape from that Bears game, I'm going, oh my God, I am showing him blitz every single time. He did some dumb stuff when you showed him pre-snap blitz, right? He canned into something that turned into a pick six. He actually made some really bad can decisions at the line of scrimmage. I kind of want to muddy that picture and see if I can get him to overzealously can out of plays, make bad decisions at the line. And see if I can generate an advantage pre-snap before anything even happens. As Aaron Freeman told us yesterday, the Falcons are probably going to just have AJ Terrell follow Justin Jefferson with safety help over the top. This is the kind of the normal thing that this is going to be like the most normal thing, which is wild to say about the Falcons. I feel like this can't be a normal game because the game plans are too normal, and it's the Falcons. I know the Falcons better than that. But they appear to be approaching the Vikings in the standard way the Vikings saw a lot last year, right? Like this is a fairly standard quarterbacking philosophy. If I see a blitz, I'm getting the ball out hot. If I see, and we throw it short and we see if we can throw over the blitz. If we see a young quarterback, we're going to blitz him. We have a good player in Justin Jefferson, we're going to try to get him bracketed. Like it's all that's bog standard. That's very much the most common response, and probably for a reason it's the most common response to everything that the Vikings do. So that means to be an interesting litmus test for what kind of tricks the Vikings have up their sleeve to handle the stuff that I expect that they will see a lot. This will certainly not be the last team with a quarterback that likes to throw the ball hot against the blitz or with a defense that wants to bracket Justin Jefferson. So what are they going to be able to do? That will be one of the things that I focus on a lot over next week. But I'm only one guy. What I think is going to happen is completely irrelevant. The wisdom of crowds is almost certainly going to be better. If it wasn't, Vegas wouldn't make any money. So let's look at what they think over there at FanDuel next on the Zoever Under here on the Locked On Vikings podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by DoorDash. I am moving right now, and let me tell you, DoorDash is a frequently used app on my phone. But if you are the kind of person that loves to sit down, glue yourself to the couch, and not move for roughly 10 hours on Sundays, DoorDash is for you. So each week on the Locked On Vikings podcast, we will look back at the previous game and crown the MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. For the Vikings, it's got to be JJ McCarthy this week, delivering in a big way, pulling it together in the fourth quarter, rattling off 3 touchdowns, and walking out of there with a win. Where would you rather be? And just like JJ McCarthy delivered for the Vikings, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday that you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. You will be hearing a lot about FanDuel lines in just a minute with these Zoever Under, but you should know that right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. We have been a FanDuel family here at Locked On for some time now, and it has been fantastic. FanDuel is quick, easy. It's the best way to add a little more energy to a Sunday, especially a red zone Sunday when you're waiting all day for Sunday night and you want a little bit of extra action on games you otherwise wouldn't care about. We're going to go over a ton of lines in a minute about the Vikings in particular, but you could have also, by chance, gone for Thursday night Packers money line. They were an underdog. They ended up winning. You would have won, and you would have had a little bit of an emotional hedge so that you don't have to be quite upset about the Packers dismantling an NFC finalist on a short week. If you are ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Moving along with the Locked On Vikings podcast, before we get to the Zoever Under, check out patreon.com/LukeBraunNFL after you're done with this episode. It has in-depth film breakdowns of JJ McCarthy, Donovan Jackson's fantastic debut, and how Dallas Turner did in his first game. Did he live up to the hype? The JJ McCarthy one is completely free. You don't even have to sign up. You can just watch it. I just want people to see it. The other ones are for patrons only, and it's less than $4 a month. Go check it out. Now it is time to look at some betting lines in the Zoever Under. Welcome back to Friday's Zoever Under, where my rabbits who are better at betting than me will pick the game against the spread, but also where we look at some of the FanDuel betting lines and try to get a vibe for how this game is going to go down, or at least how everybody thinks this game is going to go down, and then it can be fun to compare that after the fact. This is there's an interesting incongruity, and I am always fascinated with that because it really shows where narratives kind of hone in. And I'm kind of guilty of this too, that the Falcons are really all about Penix and Robinson right now. Everything else on the Falcons is sort of faded away in the background narratively, like nationally. And it leads to some interesting results. So real quick, the, full line and total on this game is the Vikings are favored by 3.5 points at home. That has the money is slightly tilted toward the Falcons at plus 3.5. And the total is 44.5. That implies like a 24-21 kind of game. So pretty normal stuff. That's all pretty even and average, and it's close. There's a lot of home field advantage. I think there's still a lot of let's put this in the middle because we're not entirely certain what to make of these teams. The Falcons lost, the Vikings won. Both were close games. Both these young quarterbacks had their good moments and their bad moments, and then what do we do with it? I don't know. Put it in the middle. But that does put the Vikings as a favored team for the second week in a row. Favored to go 2-0. The nation believes in the Minnesota Vikings. Believe it or not. But something I found kind of interesting, one thing I wanted to look at during the crossover, but we were recording too early before the lines had dropped, but they're out now, so I'm going to follow up on it, was who would have a higher passing total, and it's Penix. Penix has 225.5, JJ McCarthy 212.5. Not by much, but just edging a little bit toward Penix having a higher passing total at -114 for both of those. By the way, this over-under is not a place where I do any predicting. I'm a terrible predictor, okay? I'm awful at it. I let my rabbits do that. We'll get to that later. So I'm not going to give you any picks on these, but if you have a super strong opinion like, whoa, that's way too low on JJ McCarthy, go on to FanDuel and put your money where your mouth is. But where this gets interesting is with the touchdown props. Both of them are over 1.5 touchdowns, which is usually where quarterbacks are. It's not often you see like 2.5 touchdown lines. It's more about where the money is on that. So for over 1.5 touchdowns, JJ McCarthy is at -108, almost even odds, edging just a little bit beyond even odds. And that kind of makes sense. He threw a couple touchdowns last week. People are more or less convinced that he'll do it again. And then there's a decent contingent of people that think that will regress. Okay, fair enough. Penix is at +140. There's actually not a lot of belief at all that he's going to throw more touchdowns than JJ McCarthy, but the money is edged a little bit higher in terms of the passing line. Isn't that interesting? The other thing that makes that interesting is if you look at the TD scorer props, Bijan Robinson is far and away the most likely player in this game to score a touchdown at -155. Now, of course, that could be a receiving touchdown, but doesn't that feel a little bit like everybody expects Bijan Robinson to score the touchdowns, but for the offense to move pretty well? I think there is an expectation that this Falcons offense is supposed to move pretty well against the Brian Flores defense, which I think I'm kind of surprised by. The Flores defense has a really good reputation. It's a good fantasy defense, which gets in people's heads a lot. But for whatever reason, things are pretty bullish on the Falcons offense, at least compared to the Vikings offense. Maybe this is all just low stuff, but I don't know. Bijan Robinson's rushing total is 65.5. That's where Aaron Jones would have been during the peak of his peaks last year. That's a pretty optimistic total. Another interesting thing going on here in the Zoever under, the public has bought all the way into Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason's rushing total is at 58.5. Aaron Jones's is at 38.5. I think this is a huge miscalculation. This is actually what I took in the football party. I think this is a big miscalculation by the general public. Here's my understanding of their situation, and this is based on reporting, not my opinion, right? This is what has been reported, is that this is an even timeshare. And Jordan Mason outgained Aaron Jones on the ground, but Aaron Jones had a whole bunch of fantastic moments through the air in pass pro and all that stuff, and a couple of decent runs himself. I came away from that game thinking, man, if you're the running backs coach here, you have absolutely no reason to touch anything about the way that you split time here. Jordan Mason also benefited from better run blocking plays than Aaron Jones did, which is nothing but a factor of luck, and therefore might not happen again the same way. But this is the moment in time that we are at. So make a little bookmark of this in your head that on week 2, the world thought Jordan Mason was RB1. It's kind of funny, and it's a question that I got a lot. We didn't do a mailbag this week because of the Monday Night Football schedule, but one of the most common questions in the mailbag was, is Jordan Mason going to be RB1? And I've been getting asked that periodically all offseason, and it's a take that I've kind of been sympathetic to, but only as a spicy one I'll do for a bold predictions kind of segment. But there's real momentum for this, for Jordan Mason to be the RB1 over Aaron Jones. Oh, by the way, receiving props. Here's another thing with the sort of uncertainty around this. There are only 2 players that you can, as at least of this recording, that you can put a receiving prop on, and they're Justin Jefferson and Bijan Robinson. It makes sense, at least on the Falcons side, because you've got Drake London and Darnell Mooney on the injury report. FanDuel's basically never going to put them on the props if it's not clear if they're going to play or not. So that makes sense. For the Vikings side, though, no TJ Hawkinson, no Aaron Jones receiving, no Jordan Mason receiving is really interesting. Maybe there's too much uncertainty about just how much each of the running backs is going to play. But with no Josh Oliver likely in this game, I imagine, and a very likely Justin Jefferson bracket situation, I kind of think this has to be a TJ Hawkinson game. And if not, it has to be a Jalen Naylor game. And hey, Naylor had a fantastic night against the Bears, and I think he's got to go do it again against the rest of that Falcons secondary. But before we move on to some of the bold predictions, which have a little bit to do with this or that, it's time for my rabbits to pick this game. This is a tradition we've had now for a few years here on this show. One of the weird things about this is I put the veg down in two little piles and they kind of have to pick one. Rabbits are very choosy about which like lettuce they pick, or it's dandelion greens in this case. And it takes them a while to like decide. But ZD eventually landed on Atlanta plus 3.5. And Zoe, after hearing the crunching noises, came out and went for the same pile, even though she was standing at the Vikings pile. So they both made a pretty concerted effort to pick the Falcons over the Vikings. I think that's always so funny, how like delicate and deliberate that they are about it. It truly isn't just that I put the one side like on the side that they were already on. So there you go. The Rabbits are haters once more. They were haters last time and they were wrong as well. Speaking of people who are wrong, it's time for some bold predictions. That'll be next on the Locked On Vikings podcast. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. It's for those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is going to be a bit of an underrated one. The Vikings were totally stuck in the mud, spinning their wheels up until the fourth quarter, and Cairo Santos missed that field goal. And the play that really got that first touchdown drive going was a counter play to Jordan Mason. Big long run over midfield with a fantastic kick-out block from Donovan Jackson and an even better lead block from TJ Hawkinson. I would love to spotlight those two players, the two pullers on GY counter, springing Jordan Mason loose and getting the Vikings into scoring range where they could then eventually score the touchdown to Justin Jefferson that kickstarted the whole comeback. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight and every game, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. It's time, everybody, for my favorite segment of the week. It's time for your bold predictions for the Atlanta Falcons game. But first, we have some celebrating to do because one of the bold predictions from last week hit. So that means I will donate $20, Jordan Larson, to a charity of your choice. Jordan Larson said that the pre-snap trickery would cause the Bears to jump off sides 2 or more times per possession. I chilled that out a little bit. That would be completely insane. And I said that 4 false starts, illegal shifts, or other similar pre-snap penalties from the offense would be sufficient. That was bold. And it is one of the stories of the Bears is that they couldn't get lined up. They couldn't get their poop in a group. With regard to all of that. I think we ended up with 6 total. We had 4 false starts. We had an 2 illegal shifts. We had the one like CFL where I think it was DJ Moore was like running forward. And then another one at the end, right when it turned into the fumble that the motion was like wrong at the snap. And like I think guys weren't set or something, and then 4 false starts that also happened. So we had 6. I set the line way too low, but I do believe that was bold. That is twice their game average from last year, and they were one of the worst teams in the league at it last year. So this was really bad. Great call, Jordan Larson. I'll go over the other ones that didn't hit. The blind squirrel said that Caleb Williams would have more sacks and turnovers than JJ McCarthy in completions. We had a lot of those, so unfortunately, no. Sam had a whole thing about skull size in Bears, and it led to only Jordan Mason, Ty Felton, and Will Reichert accounting for offensive points. I thought this one was hitting for a minute. I thought this game was going to end 17-6, and that it technically would hit because Reichert was the only player to score. But alas, we got a Justin Jefferson touchdown. Bummer. We all hate those. Adam Thielen's pregame cold brew shot said that McCarthy would throw a ball out of bounds and it would be caught by Colston Loveland on the sideline. I do not believe that happened, but if you do have a clip of it, let me know. Dan Bogosian said that Dallas Turner would lead the NFL in sacks. We didn't get any. And Reef said that I would break a limb. Didn't get there, buddy. Hate to disappoint. Let's move on to the Sunday night football game, though. The first one I'm going to take comes from the 14-yard line that tackled Danny Dimes, a joke that has aged very interestingly. He says, rematch time. So a bunch of you had bold predictions that had something to do with the fact that the last time J.J. McCarthy played Michael Penix, it was the College Football National Championship in 2023. Good for McCarthy. He won. And versions of like that game repeating itself. I went for this one. On January 8th, 2024, they squared off with J.J. McCarthy and company winning 34-13. J.J. was 10 for 18 with 140, while Penix was 25 for 51 with 255. In this rematch, nothing will change. The Vikings will score 30 to 39 points, so something in the 30s, and the Falcons will score 10 to 19 points. Each QB will be within 2 completions per attempt and within 15 passing yards of their original lines and throw the exact same number of touchdowns and interceptions. This is the most specific one. I think I'll broaden it a little bit because those parameters are kind of, I'll blur the lines a little bit and make this a little more forgiving. I would say if the narrative coming out of the game is that the national championship game repeated itself, I will give this to you. Even if the stats don't perfectly line up, but I'll still give it to you with the stats as well. But the narrative needs to be like overwhelmingly, whoa, the national championship happened again. Kevin says that Dallas Turner will get a Gink 6 of his own in his first start. This requires me to define a Gink 6. Does it have to be a screen? Not necessarily, right? It can be like the one that he got on Aaron Rodgers. That wasn't a screen. He was just backing off into a slant. But I think it needs to be something where Dallas Turner starts on the line of scrimmage. I don't think he can be in the box. And he probably won't be in the box here with Andrew Van Ginkel likely not playing in the concussion protocol. You're going to see Dallas Turner on the ball as just the true edge rusher a lot. And I'm very curious to see how he does. And if it grows a little bit from what he did last week and last year, where there's a bajillion Patreon videos about it, including one about just last week at patreon.com/LukeBrownNFL. Milo Grams says that the Vikings will have the most points in the NFL in week 2. No more than 60% of them will be scored by the offense. Love it so much. So you got to have the most points in the NFL in week 2. So you got to probably hit the 40s for that. And to do that and to hit this 60%, you're going to need like a couple of special teams and defense touchdowns. I'll also count kicks as special teams to help you out with this. Wu-Tang Clan Enjoyer says, to honor the efforts of the former NCAA cover athlete's performance in the 2024 National Championship game, a non-starting running back for either team goes over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Okay, I think this is a Jordan Mason take. And we kind of have to talk about, do we count Jordan Mason as the starter or not? They both played 26, right? So I don't know how to deal with that. I think for the sake of fun, let's say that Jordan Mason is not officially the starter yet and that Aaron Jones is still officially the starter. And we'll say that this thing applies to Jordan Mason. Or actually, let's do this. Let's say it has to be the guy with fewer snaps. And if they're exactly the same again, then they're both eligible. But it has to be the guy with fewer snaps than the starter. Whoever gets the most snaps at running back is going to be declared the starter for the game and is going to be out. Diamante Loco says the Vikings will score both a kickoff and a punt return touchdown against Atlanta. Very good for the Milo Grams one. Bill Belichick's girlfriend's transfer portal request. Jesus. Says Jalen Naylor will go speed mode and have a 100-yard, 2-touchdown game off of just 3 receptions. A little Randy Moss vibe. The next one comes from, I hate that what you wrote here. I really hate you for it. It's ridiculous. It's a bunch of syllables. Says the 2 players drafted before McCarthy were Odunze and Penix, who have 4 career receiving and passing touchdowns, respectively. J.J. McCarthy will stunt on them by throwing for at least 4 touchdowns against Atlanta, while both Odunze and Penix can't add to their totals and lose to J.J. in back-to-back weeks. So this also applies to the Bears. We cannot have an Odunze touchdown. We cannot have a Penix passing touchdown. And J.J. needs to score for touchdowns. And then I do just want to wrap this out by mentioning the one from last week, Aaron Freeman. I'm going to keep asking the crossover people for bold predictions. That's got to be really fun. I hope I don't forget, but I probably will a bunch of times. But Aaron Freeman yesterday on the crossover of Locked On Falcons said that JJ McCarthy would have 3 interceptions. If he does, I will contact him about a charity. Jordan Larson, please reach out. You can just, if you want to just put an entry in the doc, that's fine. Otherwise, you can email me at lockedonvikingspodcast@gmail.com. You can get me at Blue Sky at lukebraunNFL.bsky.social, or you can just leave a YouTube comment. There's a bunch of different ways to get at me. So get at me, tell me what charity you want, and we will work it out. I will see you all next Monday. Actually, I'll see you all Sunday night after the game on the postcast. That'll be simulcast on Locked On Vikings and Locked On Minnesota Sports, as well as the audio will be up on this audio feed a little bit after that. I will see you all Sunday and then a real show Monday morning. And as always, Skull.